Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about From Season 3, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, normally I kind of work my way through the episode, but I'm going to start off and fully cover the whole Tabitha and Henry stuff just because of that ending. So, let's start there. Well, Tabitha is still trying to unravel everything that's in those paintings because she's like, right, I ended up here in Camden, Maine. I just happened to run into like Victor's dad, and his mom was chosen to get the kids out of the tower. So it's like it's all got to be connected. There must be something in those paintings I'm missing. So she's trying to understand that. It turns out that there's also a bottle tree, but it's not the same bottle tree as like, okay, she was hoping like maybe there would be like, it'd be like a faraway tree where she could be able to go in. Because she had explained the whole thing of like, right, I went to the tower, the kid in white pushed me out, and it's like the lighthouse situation. It's like, right. It's like, because she's under the impression like, right, I ended up at the lighthouse. That's got to be the tower. But we know that Boyd went to kind of like what seemed to be the tower. So that's interesting because I'm like, I don't think Tabitha's like, when she went into the lighthouse, I don't think it was the same thing. I think the lighthouse is different from the tower, isn't it? Or maybe it is the same thing. I don't know. I don't remember in the season 2 finale her going through the same place that Boyd did. That seemed like it was more like the tower where people were being chained up and held, but maybe those are two different things. But either way, she checked out the bottle tree, but it turns out this particular bottle tree is not the original. Henry's like, all right, there's actually one a few towns over. She wanted to keep it close because she felt some kind of connection to it. In fact, Henry's like, the interesting thing is this all started with that bottle tree because that's the location where we dropped acid and this all started. So Tabitha wants to get taken there, but then she starts sitting like, things start not lining up because she's like, wait, we just happened to get in the car and the song that's playing, which is you and your wife's favorite song, is actually me and my husband's favorite song. I was like, that's weird. He's like, oh, Small World. And he's like, oh, like, here's some crackers in this compartment box that'll help you feel better. And so she opens it and finds the little bracelet. She's like, no, I made this for my husband and he lost it and I found it in this town. And now it becomes that cerebral thing of she's like, oh my God, this is a trap. This place is punishing me. What's going to happen if I like choose not to play your game? If I get out this car, what's going to happen? Am I going to wake up in the hospital? Is this going to start all over again? Because this is this place messing with me. And he's like, no, like for him, he snaps because it's, but now you're like, at first I'm kind of freaking out because I'm like, is this really happening? Because now Tabitha's circumstances are making me second guess everything because you're like, but it's like the kid in white is actually helping you. So I'm like, I don't see him setting you up, but it's like, we don't know this power grab situation going on. Like the kid can probably like, the kid and Father Kotri can only help to some extent. Like there might be like, there are rules to this place that maybe even they only have like limitations on what they can do. Like, like there's this struggle of good versus evil, kind of, obviously funny enough, like a lost situation of like, there's just kind of rules to this place and there's perpetual good versus evil thing going on and they have limitations in what they can do, in this sort of macro level game that's potentially going on. And they try to help however they can, but this place is always fighting back, trying to trick. And because like I said, my thing is like, I started taking guess. I'm like, is Tabitha right? Is this all BS? But then it's like, maybe this place, but it's like, but maybe it's getting to her, like maybe there are no such things as coincidences. Like, oh, you just happened, like, she's like, it's the exact same, like, bracelet, so this place has to be messing with me. This can't all be real. It's like, I just happened to land in a place where Victor's from and his dad, so you're like, I don't know what to believe anymore, and that's the sad thing about Tabitha. But it's also like, Henry's like, no, you come to me, you tell me that my son is alive, and now you want to just give up. He's like, yo, we're right near the tree, and it's like, if she did go to the tree, what would have happened? What would she have potentially discovered? But sadly, they get in a car accident because they weren't paying attention and they get hit from the side, get picked up by an ambulance, and they're going to try and take her back to the hospital because the lady in the ambulance is like, oh, I know who you are. You're the lunch box lady. yeah, like we've had patrol cars like looking around for you ever since. It's like we're gonna go to the hospital, and then you see it. They pull up at the tree. I was like, no way. And Tabitha's like, no, 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 no. Which is ironic considering like, well, she thought this was all fake, and now it's like here we are. Granted, she's not alone. She's bringing at least what, 3 other people, 4 if you include Henry, but oh boy. Well, at least he'd be reunited with his son. But the reason I'm saying it is ironic is because of that. But also, Ethan's kind of assuming his mom's not alive anymore. And he's like, yeah, if we, at the end of the day, like, mom's not coming back, maybe we shouldn't believe. Because he had this whole conversation with Boyd, where Boyd's like, no, there's a way here. So there's obviously a way home. And he's like, no, like, if even if it, like, you don't know that for sure. You're only hopeful, and he's losing hope, and he's like, maybe we shouldn't be so hopeful. Maybe we should just assume mom is going, because of the whole Tien Chen situation. It's like, uh, what if her body's out there? No one knows who she is and wants to bury her. And no one can't really bury her. Like he wants his mom to be buried, like Tien Chen was, and he doesn't want her just to be like some body left out in the cold, which obviously not the. I mean, obviously he's a kid. He's just saying what's on his mind, but he's not read. I mean, he's a kid, so he can't. But he should read the room a little bit. And so Jim ended up flying off the handle. But Jim's going through some stuff. We'll get to Jim soon enough. But for them to end up back here, and it's like, yeah, you saw the tree, and the moment you see the tree, you're done. And as we know, it doesn't matter what road you're on. Is the moment you see the tree, you're cooked. So it's like, now you're like, wait. So it just happens to be like you have the accident, you wake up, but it's not like you woke up alone. Henry's with you too. So now the question becomes like, okay, well, at least we have a doctor in Christy, but it's like, well, we'll get to that when we get to that part of the episode. So it's just a lot is happening and converging at once. But now the question becomes, did she even get what she needed? Once again, she didn't even go to the, maybe if she did go to the tree, that would have like taken her to the tower. We'll never know what that tree situation was like, the original bottle tree. Like, who knows? Like, what's real, what's not. It's all kind of a moot point at, well, this point. So, but he's like, yeah, after all of that, now she's back here. But now the question is, like, did she get what she needed to get from the outside? Now she needs to come back? Or was it just a place being like, oh no, we got you now? Like, who knows what she gained from this situation that could benefit them? And I mean, the only benefit is now Victor and his dad can be reunited, but that's it. So, which is interesting too, because Victor went and dug something up that I don't know if he buried it a long time ago. Maybe his mom buried it, but he found it, and he went to Sarah's place, and he's like, do you have a bread sheet? I need it for whatever's in that suitcase. And he's like, I have a story to tell. So the timing on that's interesting too. There's also that fascinating thing of like, Sarah's like, oh yeah, this thing was made by my brother, and I want to try fixing it. I'm like, there's so many things that I'm like, that it feels like that's something too, where it's just like there's layers to like, oh, I'm trying to fix this thing while everything else is trying to be fixed as well. There's just a lot. So we have that. Since I brought up the gym stuff, picking up where the last episode left off, the quote-unquote Thomas calling Jim, and it's like messing with him, being like, oh, should you really let Julie and Ethan be by themselves this close to dark, not knowing where they are? It's like, why'd you let mom go? Did you want her to die? Did you not love her anymore? It's just like, yeah, this place doing everything it can to get to you. Because I think this is the first time this place has messed with Jim to this extent. It messed with him in the regards of, basically dropping a house on him type of situation last season, but to this extent. But to be fair, this place has been messing with everyone else in his family. Like, Ethan saw the kid in white. Julie went through what she went through last season, and Tabitha went through what she went through last season, and all of this. So, they're all kind of going through it. This place is affecting certain people more so than others. It's mainly like our main cast, but even like oh, what's home dude that was like sleeping on the couch this episode? Like he's getting messed with, but like he's like once again they talked about it. I think last season, Fatima told him last season like, yeah, this place affects different people. Like some people just get a little more attuned to this place than others. So, which perfect segue into well, I didn't actually finish the gym stuff. Let me go back to that before I shift over to the Fatima stuff. But Jim obviously gets, like, he's very like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on the kids. And because of Ethan bringing up the whole Tabitha of it all, he flips out. And obviously it's like him and Julie are obviously not in a good place. And now it's like, it's just driving him more and more insane and kind of causing a bigger and bigger rift between him. Because, well, he's not talking about what he's kind of going through, but it's kind of a moot point because Julie brought it up last episode. Get your shit together. I can't be the one responsible for, like, being there for Ethan. You need to hold it together and be a responsible parent. I shouldn't have to, like, hold that, like, crown of responsibility. So there's that. They're just not communicating what they're going through. You know, Julie still has not talked about it. She'll eventually probably talk about it with Sarah because she feels like Sarah might understand whatever she's going through maybe, but Jim's trying to be the responsible parent and try to hold that tight, but you know, it probably won't be until he's able to probably talk to Tabitha again that clears up some stuff. We'll see. I should have brought this up earlier, but because I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's like, not less the show's trying to fuck with us, making us think that Tabitha made it back to the town, but it could be like, no, she's still in Camden. It's just like her fear took over her, but it's like, no, they're still in Camden. Everything's okay because she did not finish what she was supposed to come here to start. So it could be that. Or it could be the show being like, nah, she actually is back. Actually, we won't know until next episode when we pick up that storyline and figure out which way that went. I was so certain, like, oh my gosh, she's there. But now I'm like sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, nah, there's a good chance this is just a show fucking with this, especially because that's the end of the episode. So it's like, oh, stinger, but it's like, nah, we're fucking with you. She's not actually back. She still does need to stay outside of that town to be able to figure out what she still needs a piece to the puzzle, like why she was sent back. She was sent back for a reason, but maybe in the knowledge of knowing she was chosen and there was others before her, specifically that was Victor's mom, like there's more to it. Like maybe that is what she needed. Like I said, maybe she won't realize until she gets back what she might have seen that was the piece to the puzzle that she was missing or is missing. We'll see. So either way, now I can finally move on to the Fatima stuff I was kind of talking about before. And her situation, after last episode, she goes over to the pile of compost and she starts eating food out of it. I was like, well, the smart thing to do would be grab some of that, sneak off somewhere and chow down. But it's like, well, you want to stay by the food source and no one's around until Tilly sees her. And it's like, ooh, this is awkward. And Tilly's like, tries to comfort her later on. It's like, hey, when I was pregnant, it was like in my, I think she said the second trimester maybe. She was like, I couldn't eat any food. All I did was lick the tops of like eggshells, the insides of the eggshell. And she was like, even if my husband threw them away, I would reach in the garbage to get them. So it was like, what you're going through, it's okay. Like she said, it'll pass, and try to make her feel better. But for Fatima, it's like she isn't able to talk to anybody about anything because she's worried that if people find out, and it's like, well, people are probably going to get a little scared of like, yo, what's up with you? What's up with your baby? What's going on here? Like, what I brought up last episode is like, does that mean she's turning into one? Is her baby turning into one? Those questions probably will arise. So it's like, yeah, you don't want that kind of popping up. So understandable, like her fears of that. But she also doesn't want to talk to Ellis about it because she's like, he's happy now. And he's happy for the first time in a long time. And I just don't want to scare him by telling him how scared I am. I just want to know my baby's okay. And so Tilly tries to like, hey, I'm going to read your fortune. I'm going to use these tarot cards. And Fatima like immediately brushed her off thinking it was bullshit. But it's like, oh, you just think I'm quirky and kooky. Like, oh, I'm just batty Tilly. It's like, that is very effed up of Fatima. But she's also like, you really are going to be discounting the cards considering everything that's happened here, everything you've seen, you're going to brush it off. And she ends up talking about, like, right, these tarot cards were important to her in a time, in a road in her life. It's like, right after her husband had passed, and her friend Gertie had given her the cards, and she's like, because of the cards, she found out about her cancer, and so it's like these cards were important. She believes they will tell and answer some questions to Fatima. The interesting thing is, before any of the cards could be read, a bird, maybe it's a crow, maybe it's a raven, bursts through and basically flaps around and slams itself and killing itself, waking up Home Dude at the same time. I keep forgetting his name. I know it's something with an E. I keep forgetting Home Dude's name, but just so much there. It's like, oh, you didn't even get to read the cards, because it's like that in itself is an omen and a sign, and maybe this place is trying to keep you from that. Even though this place wants you to hope, because it's supposed to be what it's feeding off of. So maybe, so why would it want the cards to be read? I don't know. And maybe even Fatima and even maybe Tilly might see that as a certain sign of, yikes, that is kind of a bad sign. I don't know what to fully make of that. We'll probably have to wait to see, but that's going to be interesting. At least Fatima has, even though she was a little discounted of Tilly this episode, I think it is kind of nice to have at least one person who's going to, like, understand where you're coming from, and you won't have to, like, feel judged from, like, someone who knows, like, what you're feeling and what she's keeping all that bottled up, and that's just too much for someone that keep bottled up, especially in conjunction with this place, So we have that. We're also picking up with Boyd talking to Ellis about trapping one of these things. And it's like, well, how do you plan on going about that? It's like, well, you can, the talismans keep those things out. What if we put it in what if we put one of those things inside of a house and put up a talisman? Then maybe we can trap it inside. It's like, will that work? I don't know. Could you forge one of the talismans into a weapon to hurt them? Because I'm about to say, like, what if you, like, put a talisman inside one of these things? That could also potentially work, but they don't know enough on any front. And that's kind of where Donna comes in, and she's like, are you crazy? Why would you do that? You're going to get yourself killed, Boyd. Because even later on, Father Kotche's like, oh yeah, sure. Trap one of those things in there one night. You go in there, try and check and get room for room afterwards, and the thing ends up ripping you apart. We also, we know they go dormant during the day. So what happens if you do trap this thing and it isn't able to escape, that it stays out during the day? Will it burn like a vampire in sunlight or something? We just don't know. Because he's also coming from, Boyd's coming from the perspective of, well, Christy last season, I killed one of those things and we found out it used to be human, so that's some information, but it's just not enough. But it's like, yeah, they're not really in a position to kind of take a chance. But for Boyd, it's like, we've been playing defense for so long. We've just been surviving. It's time we fight back. We need to come up with a strategy of understanding these things. But as Donna brought up, it's like, we popped shotguns into these things and they just smile it off. It's like, do you really think you'd be able to torture any information out of it? Now, if you're able to use the benefit that maybe trapping it and then it not being able to go into hibernation at night, maybe it being out in the daylight might be the key factor. All of this, we still just don't know it. Once again, enough. Because I was like, I don't think there was anything. I don't remember if anything actually happened to the body when it was laying. Because it was like during the daylight. They've had the body out and about during daylight last season, didn't they? I don't remember. I don't think anything ever happened to it because they would have mentioned it in this time frame. So. But Father Kotche's perspective on it is, no, you doing this right now is you playing right into this thing's hands. They wanted to break you, right? Well, break you means, basically making you not think, and you're just, spiraling a bit. And it's like, this idea right now is playing right into their hand. Boyd, at a bare minimum, I was wondering if what he was building, but it's like he's building a board so they write down people's name, because he had talked about it with Christy last episode. It's like, yeah, this card in the pool, he's like, I don't even remember who it belongs to, and then Christy says oh, these two people. He's like, right. So it's like, there's so many people that have died. He's like, there's no even grave markers for some of these people. He's like, there have been people who've died here before I was even here, and whatnot. So it's like, we need a board so that everyone that died here can be remembered. We don't end up in that situation wait, who did this belong to? It's like, no, we need to remember everyone that died here that we're aware of. So Which I do love the situation with Boyd when he goes to see Randall, which Randall is seeing like some kind of bugs or something. At first I was like, oh, is this kind of like a biblical thing of like, are we going to see, is he getting attacked by locusts? But I'm like, I couldn't tell what those things were. I don't know if they were wasps or what. And I'm like, I wonder if that has something to do with the trance that he was in last season. I don't know. But Boyd shows up and is like, yo, let's switch places. You stay at the sheriff's station. I will stay here because it's like, I want to watch those things. And it's like, the bus might actually be a good spot to potentially trap one of those things and keep an eye on it. Maybe. Just maybe. But, I mean, because you could treat it like an animal in the zoo, which is effed up parallel, but, you know. So, I'm curious to see what ends up at because Boyd just wants to watch them. To be fair, they want to watch Boyd too, and they're always watching, so it's time to put the shoe on the other foot type of situation and see, like, all right, let's see what you guys are up to. And it's like, they're going to enjoy probably, like, messing with Boyd in some shape or form. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting development as well, seeing, like, what he sees. I guess that's also another thing to think about, too. Like, it's approaching nighttime with Boyd and them, yet with Tabitha and Henry and everything, it was during the day, even when they saw the tree. So that's why I'm also now, once again, I keep going back to it. It's like, the show's messing with us. They're not back into town because she's not meant to go back yet. So, but I'm still split on it. It feels like a 50-50, but I'm like, I'm starting to, it's kind of becoming 60-40. Like 40%, I think they went back. 60%, I think Tabitha's still in Camden. So we'll see. But either way, we also had Kenny, Christy, Jade, and mainly Dale's the one because like Dale continues to always be the asshole. Kind of out there complaining as they have to go get more of the fruits and vegetables outside where like Kenny and Jim found last episode. And obviously those things, those kind of like scarecrows of sorts things were made, and Jay's kind of surmising like they're meant to be like the talismans. So it is kind of interesting considering like they kind of have to break them apart this episode. So you're like, that probably is going to be an issue. To be fair, it's like, well, because I'm about to say, like, you never knew they were out there in the first place, so... But that's also the thing, you never knew they were out there, so you have no idea what they might have been warding off, how long they've been there. They've been there, appear to be, for a very, very long time. Especially because later on, there's the bear trap they come across, and it's like, well, this thing's been here for decades. In fact, I think it was Dale saying, like, luckily it's rusted so much over the years that if it didn't, it probably would have done even more damage to your leg, so it didn't have the impact as it normally would have if it was not as rusted and as old. But I mean, obviously, Christy's out there trying to help as much as she can, especially with the Kenny of it all. You just lost your mom. You're trying to be okay. You're trying to focus on like, hey, I'm getting food for these people. That's all that matters. But Christy's worried about you. She's your friend. She wants to make sure you're okay, and she's trying to be there for you. But Kenny's like, I don't need that right now. I don't need the coddling. I just need to keep myself focused. I need to bring food so no one else gets hurt, no one else dies. Then you have Jade out there freaking out because this place is messing with him. First and foremost, he's trying to figure out, like, like, the puzzle that's in his head, he can't figure it out. And, you know, he's getting shit from some of the other people because they're like, oh, you're not helping out. You came from some company and stuff like that. Right. Oh, how much it sucks to be away from your money. But Jade's like, you don't even know what I'm going through here. It's not even about that. This place is extra messing with me, but who cares, right? You asshole, Dale. So he goes off, pisses, and then he runs into some stuff. Sees a guy with a spike through his head. Was that season 1 or was that season 2? That might have been season 1. That because there was that girl that had a spike through her head, and they ended up like having to like, it was keeping her alive to some extent, but then like they ended up having to like kill her just to end her suffering. I believe it was the girl, like, wasn't it? Yeah, because it was Kenny, and I can't remember if that was season 1 or season 2. I feel like that might have been season 1, but it was probably most likely season 2. I'm blurring it together, so do forgive me. But it was like, yeah, those things did that just to kind of experiment or something. So it's just, yeah, this guy having a spike through his eye like that might have been in a similar situation, because I was like, that seems super familiar. So I'm like, I would assume Jade would know about that. So I don't know if he'd draw the parallels or not. But then later on, Jade sees the guy too. Again, he doesn't have the spike in his head, but he takes like a skull and he's drinking blood from it. You're like, what the fuck is that? What does it all mean? You know, pieces to the puzzle. But either way, Christy's the one that got stuck in the bear trap. So now it's like I said, they had to tear apart one of those statues to get those things, pieces to it to act as leverage to open the bear trap. So luckily they're able to get Christy out, but Christy did have this conversation with Kenny where it's like, boy told me what your mom said to you. You'll never be alone. Kind of like, if anything happens, you will never be alone. There will always be people by your side, even if your mom's gone. So it's like, I just need you to know. I know I'm going to be okay, but I just need you to know that. And he's like, okay, I understand. You know? It's like, that's what all was driving him. The fear of like kind of being alone now. His mom's gone, his dad's gone. That like he feels so alone. And her words did more. I mean, it wasn't meant. It wasn't meant to, I guess, it kind of just, it had the opposite effect on Kenny, because I don't know if Kenny was, she probably knew, like, Boyd would bring it up to Kenny, and Kenny would have to translate it for her, but she probably didn't, she meant it just to be like, right, like, look after him, because he'll be alone now, and he started, those words kind of just clung to him, and he was feeling that, so it's just like, right, it just, like I said, he just distracting himself by working and trying to look after other people, because it's easier than dealing with what he's dealing right now. It's like, rather than like drowning in it, I gotta keep moving forward, gotta keep going, keep myself distracted. So her saying that is important, where it's like, especially out of anyone, Christy's the one you need to hear it from the most, because, you know, Christy's one of the people you care about. Like, Christy, like, you care about a lot of people here, but Christy's the person you care about the most here. I'd probably say after her would be Boyd, because Boyd's become important to you. He's like a father to you. That was a whole point last season. But yeah, we'll have to wait to see where all this kind of takes us. Whether there's going to be any ramifications for Jade and them taking apart that thing. They only took down one, but it could have been like a... If you're familiar with God of War 2018, like, oh, cutting down that particular tree mattered because, it opened up this barrier that was kind of around our home. Why? Why would mom suggest that? You know, maybe there's something kind of similar there where it's like, hey, you have a missing, like, all of that together created a barrier, and maybe now you've kind of disrupted that. You left an opening. Now, you'd assume that's bad, but maybe there's some good to it. I'm thinking it's more so bad, but we won't really know the ramifications for that until potentially later. There's a lot to keep in mind going into the next episode where all of this could potentially take us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live a life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.